And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome, everyone, to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region on this Thursday, February 20th, 2025. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I provide in this YouTube video, you can go to weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service's online presence. It'll bring you to a web page with a map of the continental U.S., Hawaii, Alaska, lower left, and tabs for the territories. If you point and click anywhere on this map, you can get a very specific forecast for a defined grid, and it will also give you any relevant watches, warnings, or advisories for any place in the nation. And a quick check of the map here on this Thursday afternoon. We've had a push of cold air following a couple of winter storms that swept across the eastern portion of the country. Areas of the Plains states, we have wind chill advisories, Nebraska down into Texas, where wind chills have been below zero and are forecasted to be tonight and tomorrow morning. Cold air has swept southeastward, a cold weather advisory for all of the deep south and southeast from Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, down across the heart of, as I said, the deep south and up into South Carolina, North Carolina. Further west, an atmospheric river is going to be coming on shore across the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, and that's going to be working its way inland across northern Idaho, western Montana. There are flood watches for this atmospheric river, the potential for heavy rainfall, snow melt, and ice jam flooding as a windy push of warm, moist air works its way across the Northwest and into the northern Rockies. Here in Alaska, we've been talking about the low pressure systems coming up out of the Pacific. That's happening again. It started this past weekend. They're moving back up into the Gulf and into the lower Bering Sea, and this trend will continue into next week. We're going to get kind of a ridgy pattern, not one of those where you clearly have this definitive big mid-upper level ridge, but generally this ridgy pattern is going to shape up over areas of the Gulf in the southeast Alaska, including the Panhandle, and that'll be taking shape. It actually is kind of underway now, but it's going to be enough that's going to provide milder temperatures and occasionally some wetter weather areas of the southern and southeast mainland down into the Panhandle as we close out February and go into early March. And today, last quarter moon occurred, so a week from today, next Thursday, it'll be new moon. And looking at a few of the FAA webcams across the state on this Thursday. I've zeroed in again on New Exit, simply the North Slope area. Low clouds, 9 below. Kuparik, not too far away to the east, was down to 27 below zero this morning for the state's low. Point Hope has had windy conditions, not too much in the way of blowing snow, but gust up to 52 miles an hour and a temperature at 2 below this afternoon. Seward, overcast, 45. Seward will be seeing some more periods of rain as this low pressure south of Kodiak Island has a trough that's going to kind of push into there for tonight and Friday morning. And then way in the southern Panhandle, kind of northeast there of Ketchikan and Metlakatla, misty fjords, low clouds and some fog, 44 degrees. And there's another system that's going to be moving up into the Panhandle area that's going to bring additional precipitation and some gusty winds. Of note, though, at least as of mid-afternoon on this Thursday, there are no watch, warnings, or advisories currently in effect for the state. So that's rather unusual at times. At least we're getting some quieter weather. Taking a look at, though, regarding avalanche threat, there is a moderate risk of avalanche in the eastern portion of the Kenai Peninsula that includes Turnagain Pass, Summit Lake, Moose Pass, as well as the areas near Valdez eastward to Thompson Pass. So moderate, but we'll have to keep an eye on that as we get some milder temperatures. If you throw in any wind or precipitation on top of that, that could cause that avalanche danger to increase in those areas in the days ahead. But in the meantime, we are watching few different areas of low pressure. So we have one here that's out kind of toward the central Gulf. We have another impulse of energy coming northward out of the North Pacific that's going to pull into the Panhandle tomorrow. We have another low down around here and another one out there. The ones out across the Bering, not especially strong, but they do have enough instability with them. They have scattered showers, either a mix of rain and snow or snow showers, but on the lighter side. Most of the energy is coming up into the Gulf and then just kind of pinwheeling around in here. Meanwhile, the cold air has been entrenched along the North Slope and along the Arctic coast. But again, for this time of year, not especially cold, but it's about all we have. A lot of the cold air broke loose and went down into the continental U.S. That's why there's been, over the past week, a series of storms bringing in cold air down there. But here in Alaska, late tonight into early Thursday morning, here's the one low just south of Kodiak Island. That's going to pull back to the west-northwest. This low just continues to drift further westward, and then we have another one that's going to be coming up into the Gulf, and another little piece of energy going to rotate in behind that. So it's just this series of pinwheeling lows, none of them especially strong, but enough just to keep some precipitation and breezy conditions going. So for Friday afternoon, here's that next low. Another front pushing up into the Panhandle. So there'll be some gale force winds along the outer coast here of the Panhandle and off of Prince of Wales Island through Dixon Entrance. And then back to the west, lingering trough from this low as it continues its westward track. And then the other low that's kind of almost stationary out there toward the western Aleutians. For Saturday, kind of conglomeration of lows, what's left of them. Main low, a 980 low here just south of the central Gulf. And one out ahead of it, going to pull up another front. This will bring in another round of precipitation later in the weekend across the Panhandle. Mainly rain, low elevation, sea level. But as you get up in the mid-upper elevations of the mountains, there'll be some snow with that. And then these two lows just kind of sitting out here across the southeast and lower Bering just north of the Aleutian chain. Into Sunday, kind of more of the same here. Here's this low that's going to kind of be pulling up toward the Panhandle. Could bring some additional precipitation. And even looking further ahead into next week, there's potential later next week there could be a wetter system with more wind coming up into the Panhandle. But overall, it's going to keep milder temperatures, temperatures above average across much of the state, especially southern southeast mainland into the Panhandle. The Aleutians are going to just kind of keep this weak low pressure troughiness, though at some point something will lift out that has a little more punch to it, but nothing coming up on the immediate horizon. So lows tonight, 10, 20 below along the north slope, spine of the Brooks Range to the Arctic coast. Going to have some gusty winds, Lisburn Peninsula, along areas here of the Beaufort Sea coast. Winds may tend to pick up as we go into Friday and Saturday. Low temperatures, single digits above and below zero across much of the central eastern interior. Bit below freezing, Anchorage Bowl, Mat-Su Valley, so watch out for icy spots this evening and again in the morning. Areas of the Panhandle not getting below freezing and readings not getting below 40 at Sitka, Metlakatla, and Craig. For Friday afternoon, we still have sub-zero temperatures along the North Slope and Arctic coast. We get readings back up in the mid-40s or so here across the Panhandle, lower 40s Juneau on up towards Skagway, some lower 40s. Seward up near just above 40, 43 at Homer, 41 King Salmon, Kodiak City, trailing out along the Alaska Peninsula, highs generally in the upper 30s to near 40 degrees. A bit chilly and breezy, still not as strong a winds, but still breezy there. St. Lawrence Island with a high there of 5 above at Savunga. And Saturday morning lows, once again, coldest air up here across the North Slope and along the Arctic coast, not quite as cold as it's been. And you may see some gusty winds at times along areas there of the coast. But otherwise, lows again, single digits above and below zero across the central, east central interior. Coldest readings there, Yukon Flats. And lows, again, still just above 40 here along the western and southern outward portion of the Panhandle. As we go into Saturday afternoon, temperatures still below zero across the North Slope and Arctic coast. Readings back around or just above freezing Anchorage Bowl, 40-ish down toward, again, Homer, Seward, as well as Kodiak City and King Salmon. Readings in the 40s in the Panhandle, highs only in the single digits along the western Seward Peninsula from Wales down to Savunga on St. Lawrence. And here, nothing's changed really. We're still looking at temperatures to average above normal across much of the state for the end of February into the beginning of March, with the best chance of that happening from, say, the Alaska range south and east. It may even include Fairbanks, 40-mile Gold Country, Northway, Eagle. But this area, the southeast and southern mainland out across the Panhandle, has the best chance of seeing above normal temperatures, with near normal temperatures along the west coast, extending up along the Chukchi Sea coastline all the way to Utqiagvik. And then precipitation February 26th through March 2nd will likely average above normal over south central, southeast mainland back across the Panhandle. We're not looking at especially heavy amounts, but at least the chances of that occurring are highest in southern and southeastern parts of the state, and precipitation may actually average slightly below normal along areas of the Beaufort Sea coast from Utqiagvik through Kaktovik there at the end of this month into early March.